This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, and our Moonlighter for today is one of my absolute favorite underdogs that we've ever had on the podcast before. He is an Olympic gold medalist making his second appearance here on the Moonlight Graham Show. His name is John Shuster. John Shuster, if you recall, led the U.S. curling team at the previous 2018 Olympic Games to an Olympic gold medal, an improbable Olympic gold medal. Shuster will be making his fifth Olympic Games appearance here in 2022 over in China. But what makes his story so great is even though John is probably the greatest American curler of all time, and he's making his fifth Olympic Games, he was a massive underdog to even make the Olympics last time around. So after the 2014 Olympic Games, which John represented the United States and did not place, the United States Curling Association held an athlete combine to put together what they thought would be America's best chance at winning gold or winning a medal at the 2018 Games. So they put together the athletes to invite to the high performance program. And John Shuster and his teammates were not invited to that program. The United States Curling Association didn't think John and his buddies were good enough. So they formed their own team of misfits and rejects, if you will, and they went and they still won the U.S. Olympic trials going into 2018. Then they go to the Olympics in 2018. They aren't playing all that well, and all of a sudden they get hot at the right time and they start knocking off all of the other great curling teams in the world, and they end up winning the gold medal in what was, for me, maybe my favorite point of the Winter Olympics back in 2018. And now Shuster is back again. He won gold in the U.S. Olympic trials recently. They're the defending Olympic champions, and he's going to be wearing the red, white, and blue again in China here in a couple of months. And if you remember, the way we got Shuster on the podcast last time, because this was a guy that's been in high demand, the way we got him on the podcast last time is John Shuster is from Chisholm, Minnesota, where Moonlight Graham spent the majority of his adult life. So Shuster grew up in a town very familiar with Moonlight Graham. The town of Chisholm, Minnesota, they host Moonlight Graham Days each and every year. So when we originally reached out to him, he recognized the Moonlight Graham name, and he knew that he wanted to come on this podcast. And so he is back for round two. We're excited to have him. I feel like we're buddies now. So we are buddies now with a five-time Olympian, Olympic gold medalist, and we will be rooting for Team Shuster in the Olympics here. So enjoy our second interview with the great John Shuster. So, John, the last time we had you on the pod, you had just won a gold medal. When was the last time you put that gold medal around your neck?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think, I'm not positive I've worn that thing for a year or two. I honestly can't remember the last time I put it around my neck.
Do you have it in like a safety deposit box, or like where do you keep something like that?
Well, I mean, I got to be a little careful about where it's in my house.
Yeah.
It's actually in like I bought like this traveling wallet thing that it fits in perfectly, and it pretty much sits in there somewhere, in some random location in my house, honestly, so I can, take it with me if somebody, wants to see it, or I know there's going to be somebody who's going to maybe want to see it. So.
Yeah. So you haven't put it on in a couple of years. Do you have to bring it to places a lot of times? Like if you're doing a speaking engagement, does everybody want to see the gold medal?
Oh, 100%. And I 100% do that. And I'll let other people wear it, but it's actually a little dinged up. Like the ribbon is very, very discolored. And actually the part that holds like the round part of the medal, that attaches the ribbon to it is kind of like half coming off. So I get nervous even handing it to people. Like I don't want someone to grab it by the ribbon or put it on their neck and have it go dinging off the floor. I don't think that'd be a very good experience.
Does anybody care about the bronze?
Not anymore, but I bring it a lot of times places if I'm going somewhere where I know there's going to be like potentially like families. So if there's going to be a couple kids, like one kid can wear a gold and one can wear a bronze for a photo or something.
Yeah. Yeah. How has the gold medal changed your life? Like, it's one thing to, have this thing in your house and that you take and show people, but it's another thing to be an Olympic gold medalist. Like, that carries a lot of weight with it. You're going to be at your 5th Olympics coming up here in a couple of months. You had previously won a bronze, but how has just the fact of placing 2 spots higher on the podium changed your life over the last 3 years?
I mean, obviously the opportunities that come along with it. And, at the beginning I was doing a lot of really fun stuff, like, dropping pucks at NHL games and throwing a rock at an NHL outdoor game and that kind of stuff. But, as that kind of stuff, like kind of dies down, peters off. I mean, I do a lot of speaking engagements and appearances and that kind of thing that, I'd never did any of prior to even being a bronze medalist. I don't think I ever had a paid appearance in my life. So, that's one of the cool things that, I never even thought about prior to, but now, I mean, I kind of have a semi speaking career along with my curling career. And it's really going to allow me to not have to necessarily, when I retire from curling, maybe have to move into a crazy ambitious coaching job or going and, finding work, whereas I can, still share my story and do some traveling and enjoy that.
How long can you curl?
I mean, there's guys playing right now. Like, there's a top 10 team in the world, Glenn Howard. I think he might be in his 60s.
Oh,
so I have no intention of playing into my 60s. However, I'm getting to the point now where I'm still, in the best shape of my life right now. And my kids are really getting interested in how this curling stuff works. And they're 8 and 6. So, if I can hang on and still be a top level curler when my kids get into their, late teens, early 20s and maybe do that with my kids, that would maybe be something that'd be cool.
What physical aspects of curling go into it? Like, what do you need to stay in shape for curling?
I have to stay in a little bit less theoretical shape than, the guys that play the rest of the positions on my team. Cause I'm the skip. So, I just do a lot of the game management and the yelling that people hear. But I still have to be able to deliver a stone. So every 15 minutes I have to be able to, dial it up and slide out of the hack and kind of, you kind of warm up, cool down throughout the course of a game. Whereas my sweepers, they're doing a lot of, it's almost, the stuff they're doing is more similar to like high intensity interval stuff. So,
Right.
But I do a lot of interval training and, cardio and basic strength balance things are things that are the most important thing for me are definitely the core strength balance component of workouts.
Talk to me about your role then, because you're more of the coach or the strategist. You're not the one doing the sweeping. So can you explain to me just the roles of the 4 guys on the team?
Yeah, I mean, every team is a little bit different. I mean, some roles are identical, whereas, the lead on our team, John Lansdowne, he throws the first 2 stones that our team throws every end. And then he sweeps the next 6. And Matt Hamilton sweeps John Lansdowne's stones and he plays second on our team, but then he throws the next 2 stones that we play. And then he sweeps the last 4 with John Lansdowne. And then Chris Plies, who plays vice on our team, he sweeps the first 4 stones at the end. And then his sweeping duties are done and he throws 2 stones and then he comes and holds the broom, gives me my target when I throw my 2 stones, which are the last 2 of the end. And throughout the course of that, I'm dictating the strategy, and it's a little bit of a democratic process sometimes where I'm like, okay, do you guys prefer this shot to that shot? Do you prefer this particular weight that we're going to throw to that particular weight, maybe on a takeout? And for me, and the part about that is, I basically, call those shots. And then when the person throws the shot, I have to assess what I'm seeing based on what I was expecting. And as it's coming down the ice, like, is it, if the rock is curling or I think it's going to curl, or, I have to, try to communicate the guys. They communicate to me, how the rock was thrown as far as from a weight perspective. And I communicate back to them, like, based on what I saw and what I hear from those guys, if we need to sweep or not. And, I might change my mind. So you might hear yes, no, like, cause that does happen. So, but that's kind of, the essence of what I do is I call the game, and then I have to help the sweepers by letting them know, if a rock needs to be swept from a line perspective on my end. And I have to anticipate the curl sometimes, and sometimes you get it right. And hopefully most of the times you get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong.
I got to imagine that team chemistry goes a long way in curling, with how much you guys have to communicate and work together just throughout the entire game. Like it's not a one-man game at all. It's truly a team game. So what do you guys do? What do you do as the leader to build a team?
I don't necessarily think that I do too much other than I try to lead by example from, what I do. And I'm very transparent with my guys that, I'm trying to do everything I can to help them. My mantra is I try to do everything I can to help them have the best game they've ever had of their life, whether it be leading into the game or during the game. And, from everything I do, I'm trying to empower, those guys. But, in the same sense, once you have your team of 4 guys and you decide you're going, to do this, I think everybody kind of, equally contributes to, at least on our team, to making sure that A, individually, everybody's in a good place, and B, that, as a team, we're in a good place, and whatever that looks like. And, for me, I'm all about, okay, we get done with a morning game kind of thing. We might have a night game, and Hamilton's, I know he's going to take a nap. Chris maybe takes a nap sometimes. Maybe sometimes he goes exploring, and, Lance Standard usually gets some work done, maybe gets a little nap in, and we kind of all, support everything each other needs off the ice. So then, and that really just translates to great chemistry on the ice when you are 100% supportive of each other's needs on and off the ice.
Are there game plans when you're going up against certain teams that you've gone up against a bunch? Like, are there scouting reports, game plans, that type of stuff? Or is it more like, hey guys, we got to execute to our best, and when we're at our best, that's how we win, as opposed to like, hey, this is a really good matchup for us?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, for a long time, and even still, if we go out and play our game, we don't make too many tactical mistakes. We're a little bit on the aggressive side. So, we maybe are playing with more rocks in play than other teams. And we think that, our game against most people is what we need to play to try to give ourselves the best chance to win. However, in this final series of the Olympic trials, it wasn't really working so well for us in our round robin games against Dropkin. And then again, even in the first game of the final series. So we adapted there and game planned a little different, and knew that we were going to have to be very patient. And, our goal was to get, the back end of their team to throw a couple, it felt like they were throwing a bunch of basic shots in the 2 games we had lost to them prior. And we wanted to make them throw shots with some consequences, and that were a little bit more difficult. But we knew we had to be patient. We couldn't force it, because, by trying to force it, we were theoretically going to maybe make them let them throw a shot that, could, let the game get away from us. And honestly, he did have that shot in the 6th end, but the worst shot on the sheet was right next to the best shot on the sheet. And had he made the shot he called, they would have scored 3 or 4, and they would have went to the Olympics. And when he didn't make it, we stole 2. And all of a sudden we went from being in still a not very controlled part of the game, because we were behind by 1 and they had the last rock advantage. And now all of a sudden we were up by 1 and they still had the last rock advantage, but we kind of, flipped that. And that was kind of what changed that whole series.
This will be your 5th Olympics. If you could go back in time to your first Olympics, what would you tell yourself, that you've learned now after being in 4 of them that you didn't know going into your first one?
I don't think I'd honestly change anything. I think I actually look back at my first Olympic experience with such high regard, because I was young and I didn't have any expectations other than going there and playing great and being very prepared to be there. And I knew our team was, we were all first-time Olympians, and everything about the Olympics was, was amazing, from the opening ceremonies to living in the village and not having any idea what that was going to be like. And Yeah. And I think we took in plenty of other, events while they're going there, and met and we knew a lot of the athletes because we had a summit before. I think honestly, what I did at the first Olympics, I think I pass along to my teammates who I know are going to be first time Olympians, to be like, you know what? I don't want to tell you too much. I just want you to like take it in, like being at the top of our sport, and really enjoy the experience. I think, I could tell 2010 and 2014, I could tell my 2010 self a few things to maybe not have such high expectations after we won bronze. And I felt like it was in a great place, and we'd go there and, to maybe take some pressure off yourself, and you're curling for you, even though you have your country's flag and all these people watching that never watched before. And I think that took me all the way till 2018 to figure out that it didn't really matter, what the rest of the world was, seeing on the ice or happening, or what that would look like, in the public perspective. I all of a sudden finally figured out that, I'm out here curling for me and for my teammates, and we happen to be representing our country.
Do you feel more pressure this time around? You were such an underdog story in that last Olympics because of how you guys even got into the Olympics. Now you're the returning gold medalist. Does that carry some more weight with it?
No, I mean, it really doesn't, because, Americans, no matter if their teams are expected to win or not expected to win, if you win, they love you. And if you don't win, they're trying to figure out who they should have sent there instead, or what you did wrong to lose. So, I honestly, curling wise, we had been, prior to the last Olympics, to 3 straight world championships, made the playoffs all 3 times. This year going there, we're going in from the world championships. We made the playoffs each of the last 2 times we played. We've had good records against the other teams that are going to be there, just like we did last time. So I think from a curling perspective, it's all the same. And honestly, now that we've won the Olympic gold medal, I mean, Tyler said it best after the last time: I never have to win another curling game in the rest of my life for it to be a successful career. So I actually think probably the pressure might be off, even though we have that, tag of being the reigning Olympic champion. But I think, I'm not positive. No, I think we're just the second team that's got a chance to go and try to defend a gold medal, because I think Norway won in 2002 and they were the same team in 2006. But the 2006, 10, 14 teams that won from Canada, none of them made it back to the Olympics. So it's pretty cool to get a chance to go defend.
Is there anything about the ice that could change from venue to venue? Like, hey, we don't really know what the ice is going to be like in China until we get there. Or is it just like ice is ice?
Ice is definitely not ice. And you definitely don't know until you are there. So the good news about the ice over there is that there's a mixed doubles competition being played in the same venue prior to us. So we'll get a chance to watch probably, some of those games going on and kind of see what it looks like it's going to be like. But really, until you get out and play on it, you never really know. And it's interesting because there was a World Championships in China, I think in like 2014, that it was right in that area that one of my teammates went to as an alternate and said the ice was just atrocious. But sometimes over there, they have a little trouble like getting the water to a certain point with like the smallest, because they need to have the water that they use for curling ice has to be a certain, parts per million of random things and be clear of a lot of outside stuff in the water, which in China isn't necessarily always the case. So you never really know until you get there, but you assess what you see and assess what you practice on, and you go from there.
What can you do between now and opening ceremonies to get yourself, in peak John Shuster, training, ready to go?
I mean, we have 2 events still between now and then. We're playing in Evelyn in the Kromasaba Cash Spiel in 2 weeks. And then we actually have our national championships prior to the Olympics. So we're going to get a chance to go play down in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Hey.
How far is that from you, by the way?
90 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, January 2nd to the 9th. So we play our national championships, and then we're kind of quarantining. But for me to be there is going to be, playing those games, seeing the ice at our nationals and throwing championship rocks. And then for me, it's just legitimately practice and doing what I can to make sure my mental state is good. And, that's seeing as much of my kids as possible around the holidays, and as much as that is now, because I'll probably have to even kind of go start sleeping in the basement and separating from them, prior to even departing for our pre-Olympics thing that we're doing wherever we're doing it.
You said championship rocks. Is there a difference in rocks that you throw?
No, but it's just like when you play on arena ice, like we're gonna have at our national championships, and like it's different than going and throwing stones at your rocks at your curling club. So if I go throw rocks in the curling club, like okay, I can practice and I can still play in league and play games and stuff. But when you're playing on the most pristine ice you can be on with ice makers who, it's their job to make the ice fantastic. So those playing in those conditions against other teams for a championship is just different. Those rocks are different than say like me going and throwing practice stones, which I'm going to do here in about an hour. So
let's talk about the first pitch that happened back in 2018. I know you're a big Twins fan. You and your squad get out there to throw the first pitch at a Twins game, and essentially all hell breaks loose. What happened here?
Well, what happened was 5 of us threw the pitch at the exact same time, and that's just that's just asking for trouble. I mean, it's not like we were back there, warming up kind of thing. But it started with Tyler because we told him, yeah, you can have the hill, Tyler, because I had thrown out a first pitch at a Twins game prior. Like you can have the rubber, and he was a pitcher in high school, and I was a pitcher in high school, and whatever. He's like, I'm just gonna go there and reach back and give her everything I have and kind of fire it, and he fired it high and inside on a righty, which was essentially at the head of my catcher. and he kind of, threw it probably a half second before me. And I saw that it was my catcher was kind of diving out of the way, and I was throwing a knuckleball because I'm a knuckleballer. And so I was throwing a knuckleball and I saw my guy kind of diving out of the way, and I let it go. And it was just, he would have caught it had he not had Tyler's ball traveling at his head. And Matt rolled his, and Joe threw a nice little lob in there. And I think Lance Steiner did fine too, but yeah, it was, I'm blaming that on Tyler.
Were you a knuckleballer back in high school?
Yeah. In high school, college, I even played some wood bat, like amateur, like adult ball too.
Hold on. Did you play college baseball?
If community college baseball, yeah.
No, I count that. I'm a JUCO guy myself, John.
Yeah, we went down and played Iowa Western down in Council Bluffs. Yeah, that was like the Hibbing would. Our coach had a relationship with their coach, and we go down and play him every year.
What JUCO did you play at?
Hibbing.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. We used to play. We wouldn't play a lot of Minnesota JUCOs because a lot of them were D3 JUCO.
Yeah, we were too. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were D2. So how did the knuckleball go in JUCO?
You know what? My first year, the catcher never wanted to catch it, so he would never call it, kind of deal. So I got beat up. I won't lie to you. I gave up 2 grand slams in 1 inning my freshman year. we went down. Yeah, I just said that to the world.
Can't hold part.
Here's a great part. We went down for our spring trip down to that year. I think we were in Mississippi, so we went down to Biloxi and we played against these D1 JUCOs down there. And our second or third game, we're playing this team, and I think it's second or third inning. I come in with the bases loaded, nobody out. Serve one up to the first guy, he hits it over the fence, grand slam number 1. I load the bases up again on, I think there was 2 outs when the bases got loaded, and we had 2 errors to get the bases back loaded up. So I gave up 2 grand slams in 1 inning and only gave up one earned run. So
I love that. That's a great JUCO story right there. How long did you play town team ball after college?
I'm trying to think of how long. I played for probably 5 or 6 years. And actually, here's the thing, I never gave up a home run on a knuckleball in my career. My freshman year of JUCO, I gave up, I think I pitched like 14 innings and gave up like 17 home runs. But again, my catcher wouldn't call it. The second year we had these guys come into our team from Louisiana that came up and played, and that catcher just loved it. And I worked off my knuckleball and stuff. And honestly, the coolest thing I've done since the Olympics maybe is I was playing in the BMW Pro-Am golf tournament down in South Carolina. And Josh Beckett and Tim Wakefield were also playing in said tournament. And I walked up there was a batting cage under it, and it was and we played a celebrity softball game, and that they had lined up for us after the first day of play. And I went under the stands, like where the batting cages were, and they had a bar set up down there. And I went, to grab a beer or something, because it was after we got done golfing, and it was kind of a fun deal. whatever. And it was in a replica of Fenway Park because it was in Greenville. It's one of the Red Sox, whatever teams. And down there is I see Wakefield on the back of this guy's jersey. And I go walking up and I'm like, hey, how's it going? He turns around, he goes, Skipper. And I'm like, no way. He's like, what? I'm like, you don't even know. He's like, huh? What are you talking about? Like, I'm like, dude, I'm a knuckleballer. He's like, no way. He's like, we watched every match at the Olympics. That's ridiculous. He's like, well, there's a tub of balls over there. I know we're playing softball. We got to go out and play some catch, man.
No
and
way.
So I legitimately threw knuckleballs back and forth with Tim Wakefield for like 10 minutes prior to our softball game.
Well, what was it like catching his?
You know what? His wasn't that much better than mine. Makes me sad that I never gave it a run. But then it was funny because Josh Beckett's like, okay, here's the deal. His may not look better than yours right now. He's like, but I would only play catch with Wake during spring training because he would spend an entire day in spring training throwing the same rotation, because it's almost none, but he actually has an intentional rotation that he puts on it. And he can spin it like all 12, essentially all 12 hours of the clock.
Yeah.
And so he'll work on one the same day. So you can catch it spring training. And then once the season goes on, he just randomly will pick a rotation and spin it 1 1/4 in whatever direction he's going. And then he's like, before a game, I don't even want to play catch with the guy because he has to practice all of them and he can't be like, say a number and throw it. So he's like, I won't even play catch with him during the season.
he wasn't giving you his championship rocks.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was definitely doing what I'm going to go do at the curling club right now, getting those reps in. But it was cool. He's a knuckleballer that grabs with his knuckles. I was a fingertip knuckleballer, so a little different.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys compared grips and talked you through any of that.
He did. Like I told him, and I'm sure he probably had I'm sure he was like, maybe a little skeptical. And then we went through it. He's like, yep, because Matt tried to throw a couple knuckleballs to him, and like a guy who doesn't throw knuckleballs, you can tell like they're trying to not spin the ball. Whereas for me, just like Wakefield, just my regular way I throw the ball, and I can make it not spin.
That is cool. That is a great story. I'm glad we got to that. Like I always say, baseball's one of those sports that we need more unique things in the game. And it's like they're starting to homogenize the game a lot now with, the universal DH and some of these things that I always want there to be a chance for a guy that both pitches and hits. I always want there to be a chance of like a guy like R.A. Dickey that blew out his arm and can come back as a knuckleballer instead of every guy trying to be a fastball slider guy with a circle change. The knuckleball is just such a cool part of baseball. And I wish we had more of that in the game today.
I can't believe, like, honestly, I would say like even in high school, I threw a knuckleball instead of a changeup because I have the same arm motion and I can try to throw a knuckleball as hard as I'd throw my and granted, when I say fastball, we're talking mid 70s here. I got a plus arm. And that's why I had a knuckleball because I had really good control. But my knuckleball was 12 miles an hour off my fastball and I could throw it with the exact same arm speed. Like I'm surprised that there aren't professional players that don't have a knuckleball as their changeup, honestly.
Right.
I mean, obviously you can pick up that it's not spinning, but like if those guys could get it out of their fingertips like I could, throwing with the same arm velocity that they do, especially, somebody who's got an 89 mile an hour fastball, great location. Like that's why my knuckleball is so good is I could actually locate it and it was changing speeds.
And baseball guys, a lot of them have great knuckleballs that they play with in the outfield while they're getting warmed up, or there's a lot of time where they're just messing around. I could never do it. But I knew a lot of guys that had great knuckleballs, but didn't have the guts to throw one in a game. And I wish we saw more of that, just like you.
Yeah. For me, once I threw one for a strike in a game, it was like, honestly, it was over. It was, I was comfortable. I once in a while when I was playing slow pitch softball, I would even, playing shortstop kind of thing in a game that you maybe were up by some runs or down by some runs. I'd toss the knuckleball over there to first base on a grounder. I don't care.
Yeah, I love it. So did you get to Moonlight Graham Days back in Chisholm this year?
I don't know that they had Moonlight Graham Days in Chisholm this year because of the old pandemic.
COVID?
So they may have, but I wasn't there this year. But I did make it there, I think, in 2018. Maybe 19 too. I don't know.
is all right. We'll wrap it up here with our 5 big questions then, John.
Oh boy.
In curling, do you have like a favorite shot? Like the knuckleball is your favorite pitch in baseball, but is there a favorite shot in curling?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, what we always talk about in our team, and I don't know why, but in out turn draw to the 4-foot.
What the heck does that mean?
I think it's because it's the first shot I practice every day. But it seemed to be like I've won a few national championships throwing that shot for the win. So,
and what is that exactly?
It's where you turn the rock counterclockwise, and you throw it where it stops in the house without touching any of the rocks and goes to a particular spot. Got it.
Is there a team in the Olympics that you're looking forward to getting matched up against?
You know, right now the teams that have qualified for the Olympics from Scotland and Canada are having 2 of the greatest years in curling history, both of them. Like they're combined like 70-4. So, but you know, I've always loved playing against those teams, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting on the ice against those guys because, you know, they haven't seen us this year, we haven't seen them this year, but we've obviously seen what they've been doing, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to playing those 2 teams. They're gonna be huge tests because they're 2 of the best teams in history right now. So,
is there an Olympian on the U.S. side or across the world that you can't wait to meet?
You know, honestly, I can't even not at the Winter Games. It's hard to say because, you know, I'm really excited to see some ones that I've been to the Olympics with, and I've got a chance to meet a lot of them. And I don't know that there's any big hype of people that are going to make the Olympics or go to the Olympics or be medal favorites in anything right now that, you know, I haven't met before. You know what? I'll go out there. How about Erin Johnson, the gal who just broke our speed skating 500 record? I just saw it the other day, so I look forward to meeting her.
Yeah. Do you get a chance to watch a lot of the other events?
So at previous Olympics, and I don't know how it's going to be at this one, but like in our place in the village, we had the ability to get the closed circuit TV feeds from every venue. And then you're able to we could sit down in our team apartment at the village and put the TV on and watch the closed circuit games. So yeah, we do take in a lot of sports when we're not playing.
I take it that, are you a hunter yourself?
Oh yeah.
When's the last time you killed something?
I killed a pheasant in mid-October. I went pheasant. I have 2 German short hair pointers, and I went pheasant hunting a couple times at a game farm, so it hardly counts. But I went deer hunting. I didn't get any shots, but I dragged 3 deer out of the woods. I didn't kill any of them myself.
Yeah, you look to me like a guy that hasn't killed something in a couple of months, so I had to know.
Wow, yeah.
I'm kidding. All right.
Now, you know what? I was thinking, I just had a buddy texting me about ice fishing, being like, "Hey, have you been out yet?" I'm like, "Nah," but now I kind of want to go out. In Minnesota, we can actually do this thing called spearing from a dark house for northern pike. And that is where you sit down, look through a hole that's like 2 feet by 2 feet through the ice. And you have like something that attracts them in, and they come in and you actually throw a spear and kill them. And now you kind of, you know, got my juices flowing that I need to do that since I look like somebody that hasn't killed something in a couple months.
That sounds like fun. That sounds like a good time.
It's actually, they call it Finlander television. Because most of the guys that speared from Dark House, because it's kind of a ethnic thing, or and I have some Finlander in me, so yeah, that's why I like it so much.
That's good. Final question here, John. What's one thing that you want us, the U.S. fans, to know about your squad before we tune into the Olympics and watch you curl?
You know, honestly, what you see from us out on the ice is exactly what you get, and that's, I think, the coolest part about our sport is that we're mic'd up. And you can kind of see the way we communicate and our personalities. And that's, I think, what makes, you know, both our team and curling so cool is that, I think people can really connect, you know, with what they see out there. And that is what they're seeing is exactly who we are out there. And yeah, so yeah. And if they want to go and, you know, down the road, it's not out yet, but if they're going to want to get some, you know, merch or something to support Team Shuster, there will be a store available out there too. So we got some cool gear coming out here soon.
Awesome. We'll make sure to push that on social media as well. Well, John, thanks so much for coming back on the Moonlight Graham Show. It's awesome to reconnect after 3 years, and good luck in the Olympics this year. We'll be cheering you on. Thank you for listening to our episode with John Shuster. And if you are the one person out there that is holding back on connecting us with Kevin Costner, how dare you? We are on a quest for Costner, and we need your help and support. But moving on to brighter things, it is the season of giving here on the Moonlight Graham Show. And if you want a Moonlight Graham Show shirt, I've talked about it the last couple of weeks, but we want every Moonlighter out there rocking a Moonlight Graham Show shirt. If you support the podcast, we want you rocking our shirt. Send me a DM, send me an email. I will send you out a shirt as long as supplies last. So if you want a Moonlight Graham Show shirt, or if the special someone in your life wants a Moonlight Graham Show shirt, let us know. We will send you out a shirt. It's a free will donation. You can Venmo me money if you like, or hey, we just want you guys all to have a shirt as well. You don't even have to give anything if you don't want. That's okay with us too. We just want to make sure that every Moonlighter out there has the true Moonlight Graham Show shirt. So if you want to get that in before Christmas, a lot of you have taken advantage of that the last couple of weeks, but we are going to do that the entire month of December here. So let us know. Special thanks to the Moonlight Graham Show team, Andy, Neil. Guys do a great job. The trusted co-host, Tommy Griffin, who also does all of the write-ups for every episode as well, all of the show notes. Brian Sandvig, the episode producer. He's the best in the business behind the scenes. And, of course, the artwork by the great Brendan Gargano. Thank you to all those guys. Thank you to our trusted sponsor, the People's Company, as well, peoplescompany.com. You've heard them, Andrew Zelmer, Matt Adams. Those guys know more about land brokerage and farm management than anyone I've ever met. Check them out if you need help with your farming needs. And thanks to you, the Moonlighters out there, for supporting the show, for listening. We love you guys. Have a great week, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program, broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.